All right, welcome to another episode of the Jarvis Sam Show. Welcome to a very special episode of the Jarvis Sam Show. And this one is really to just remember and honor the legacy of the late great Kobe Bryant. Exactly 1 year ago to the date, we learned of the tragic passing of Kobe Bryant and Gianna Bryant, his daughter, whom he was grooming to be the Kobe, the female Kobe Bryant. A very tragic day. It's one of those situations that really springboarded and really got the year 2020 off to just a very rocky start. Um, for me, Kobe Bryant was that iconic basketball player that I grew up with, right? I was fortunate enough to be able to see Michael Jordan play basketball, especially the second half of his three-peat after he came back from retirement. But in the 80s when Jordan was in his prime and coming up, but well, I guess the 90s was his prime, but when he was on the rise and becoming the best player in the world, I was too young to really get that or to see that. But with Kobe, man, I literally saw him from the minute he entered the league from high school, and just watched that iconic journey and just watched him blossom as a player, as a man, and just do some amazing things on the court, do amazing things off the court. He was one of those players that you just knew it was something. You were any time that he's on the court, you knew that there was a chance that something special was going to happen, that he could do something just amazing. I remember when he had the 81-point game against Toronto. He actually wore this exact jersey. It was magical. And I just remember like seeing the highlights and just being able to rewatch that game. I didn't watch it live, but I remember just watching, just him just taking over and just going into that Mamba mentality that he has a book about, that he spoke about, that alter ego, that he just kicks everything up to another level. And just, seeing being able to witness his entire career, was different for me. So it was one of those things where, and as a huge basketball fan, like of all the sports, basketball is at the top of the charts for me. It's an amazing. So it's just, to me, it's the most fast paced, incredible game. It's something that as a kid, you grew up playing a lot, and we as kids, when you're playing basketball, you're always kind of, hey, I'm Jordan, I'm Kobe, I'm such and such, and Kobe was one of those players that as a kid you just wanted to emulate, and he's just an amazing talent. He was. And then, even off the court, and post basketball, like he was just doing amazing things. He had some amazing talks that he had at different universities where he was speaking about leadership and how he, approached the game and how he led. And it was just incredible to hear those things, because he's, we saw what he did on the court. Like he was like, if Killer Instinct was in the dictionary, it would have a picture of Kobe Bryant right there, because he's the epitome of killer instinct, right? He would, I remember at his memorial service, Shaquille O'Neal spoke, and Shaquille O'Neal said that, there was one time when, a lot of the other players on the Lakers were getting a little frustrated with Kobe because he wasn't getting them the ball and so forth. And, Shaq being the other kind of alpha guy on the team, the players all approached him and talked about it and told him about it. And he said, "Hey, I'll talk to Kobe." He said when he approached Kobe and, he said, "Hey man, the guys, don't feel like you're getting the ball." And, he said, "I just want you to remember one thing, there's no I in team." And he said that Kobe Bryant said, "There ain't no I in team, but it's a M-E in that motherfucker." And so, and I apologize for cursing, but it was only the only way to really describe 100% in the totality of what Shaquille O'Neal said. And that was, truly Kobe Bryant's mindset. And those are those things where, great players know what they need to do in every single moment. And, in anything that you do, if you're a leader, you know that sometimes you have to distribute. You have to delegate. You have to, for all intents and purposes for this, you got to pass the ball. You got to distribute the ball. But then sometimes that, hey, my team is not performing at the level I need them to, but I still want to win. So I've got to step up and do what I know is best and do everything in my power to get us to win. And that's exactly what he did that 81-point night, because his team was going through kind of a small rebuilding phase. They were struggling. He had some interesting players alongside of him. He had like Smush Parker and Kwame Brown, but Kobe was the type that he's not going to complain about the players that are around him. He's going to do everything in his power to win because he's Kobe Bryant and he knows what God-given talent he has. He knows all the hard work that he's put in to be a great player. So he made the best of the situation and he did everything in his power to keep that team competitive. And there's a lot that was said, in the past few weeks about James Harden, basically, insulting his teammates on the Houston Rockets by saying, this team just isn't good enough and whatnot. Kobe Bryant was in a similar situation where he wanted off the Lakers. But he took a totally different approach. And instead of insulting his teammates and whatnot, he stepped up and, dropped 81 when necessary and just led his team. And eventually the organization got better players around him. They ended up experiencing even more success. And this time Kobe was able to experience success without being alongside Shaquille O'Neal. So the way he handled the situation and the way that others handle similar situations is another one of those things that truly separates Kobe from many other players. So again, January 26, 2020. I will never forget the day. I had just left a church service doing the christening of my niece, and my wife and I were named as godparents, so we were there to do the christening, and we're on our way home. And a friend of mine texted me, who knows I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan, and it was a screenshot of the TMZ article that said that Kobe Bryant and others killed in a helicopter crash, right outside of LA. And he's like, "Hey, dude, this is true?" And I'm driving. And I'm like, "But," and I'm one of those people. I don't really like to text and drive, and that's not really my thing. But this was different, and I'm like, "Whoa!" It got my attention, and so my wife is like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I think Kobe Bryant might have died." And she was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So I gave her my phone and she kind of starts Googling and she pulled up the CBS article and, it confirmed his death and everything. And when it was confirmed, man, I was, it hurt. It when you talk about celebrity deaths, we've seen many celebrity deaths over the years, including Michael Jackson. And this one just, I wasn't able to just let it roll off my back. I wasn't able to just say I don't know Kobe personally, so I couldn't do it for some reason. I felt so connected to him somehow. That, and I think again, I think it goes back to growing up with him, seeing him, develop as a player, seeing him develop, and then, seeing that he had just retired, just a few years ago, and was beginning this whole nother life and this whole nother journey as just a father, as a mentor, as a leader, and knowing he just had a brand new kid brought into this world, and at the time my wife was pregnant, and so again, that I think the whole dad mentality was there. The whole it was just so many things. And long before, he passed away, I had his book, Mamba Mentality, sitting over my desk at my job. And I had it sitting over my desk because I wanted that as a reminder of, when things are rough, or when, you know, I feel like, because you're going to have those times at work where no matter how good you are, where you feel like you get frustrated, you get a little bit overwhelmed. And I look at that book and it reminds me that I have a Mamba mentality on the inside of me. And if I can tap into that Mamba mentality, I can get myself and my team out of this rut, or out of whatever situation we're in, because I have that on the inside of me. And so the day just, we get home, and my wife and I are both in tears, and um again, it's one of those things, like, this is a celebrity death, like, why are we feeling like this, right? So then we flip on the news. Every news outlet is talking about it, and it was almost like we're kind of getting it together. We're like, okay, we're just wrapping our heads around it. We're just, okay, now we're trying to figure out, what happened, and so forth. And then boom, we found out that Gianna, his daughter, was with him, and she is now gone. And that's when everything just turned all the way up, because I think, you can't help but feel for Vanessa, losing both the love of her life. This is her high school sweetheart, and her daughter, in the same day, same tragic instance. It was heavy. It was really, really heavy. You, we, my wife and I actually had plans for the rest of the day. We were gonna, really enjoy the rest of that day, and we had really nice plans for dinner. We were going to an event that we should have enjoyed a little more than we did. It as much as I thought the event might have taken, my mind off of it, it really didn't. Um, it was tough. It was a really tough day. I found myself thinking about it, just constantly. Um, I still think about it. It's one of those things. That's why I'm, getting this content out here now, because it's one of those things that still, really is a present thing. And, it just goes to show, like, no matter, you can be this super rich um, athlete, former athlete, super healthy, but when it's your time, it's your time. And you just, we never know when that time could come, so, we, as responsible adults, try to do, all the right things, and, you know, take care of ourselves, take care of our health. We exercise, we try to eat decent, drink water, uh, try to stay out of the way of law enforcement so they don't take us. Um, and they just try to do so many different things to stay out of trouble, and stay away from harm. And then, a freak accident can happen. And it's just one of those reminders that how precious life is, because, death is not death has no, doesn't play favorites. When something happens that are beyond your control, in an instance, it's over. Obviously I, have those thoughts of, what was going on in the helicopter during that time. Like how did he comfort his daughter? Like how did he, those thoughts definitely creep in. Like, what was that last moment like? And not being able to imagine having to live that moment. And I think as a man, you're like, you'd give your life for your family, but to know that your life is about to end along with, your daughter. I mean, I, I don't know if Gianna was his favorite, but I know that Gianna was the daughter that was following in his footsteps. So I know that there was a very special bond there. That's heavy. Um, One of the things I think also that made us that made our generation connect so much with Kobe was his work ethic. Right? You just knew that he had this work ethic that was just unprecedented. And I one of the interviews that or athletes that I saw that spoke about kind of their experience with Kobe was Jay Williams. Jay Williams is a former NBA player whose career got cut short due to injuries, and he's now a ESPN correspondent. And he shared his story the first time that he played against Kobe Bryant. So he was with the Bulls, and the Bulls were facing the Lakers, and so Jay Williams was a top draft pick. I believe he was the top draft pick. So he was, supposed to be the next savior for the Chicago Bulls to help them rebuild from the Jordan era. And so he took that seriously, and he talked about how he went to shoot around, early. He wanted to get some shots up, and when he got there, Kobe was already in the gym shooting. And Jay Williams is doing his thing, and uh, they got to a point where Jay was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta do my thing, and Kobe was still there. So Kobe was there before he was there. Kobe was still there after he left. And so Jay said he walked. He thought about walking off the court, and he said, "You know what? Let me go say something." So he went over and he talked to Kobe, and he said, "Hey," he says, because at this point Kobe Bryant is like the best player in the league, or the one or two best players in the league. So it's just like, dude, why are you still out here? Like, you good? And Kobe told him, "I just want you to know that whatever happens tonight, I want you to know that you'll never outwork me." And that's the kind of work ethic that you just can't buy, man. Like that is just priceless. That is just incredible. Just his dedication, and it's almost like a mind game that he's getting in your head. Like, dude, I'm out here putting in the work. That's why I'm Kobe Bryant. That's why I'm this good. And I think it made an impression on Jay Williams. And that story just made, it really just stood out to me because, Kobe Bryant could have been doing anything else. He could have been chilling. Kobe Bryant has been putting up shots, all his life. He was drafted right out of high school. Like, he probably didn't need to be in the gym that long, right? But just to be able to do that and to continue to work at his craft, even though you're the one or two best player in the league, even though you're perennial MVP candidate, even though you're Kobe, you're that dude. Like, everybody's saying you're the 1A to Michael Jordan, right? And just that work ethic is just incredible, and something that just can't be matched. It's tough. It's really tough. So many good Kobe memories, on the court. I just, can remember him, winning all-star MVPs, and of course the championships. I remember the championship against the Celtics. I remember being in uh, every place was the day of the NBA Finals. It was like Game 7, and everywhere is packed. I got off work kind of late, so I'm trying to find a spot to watch the game. So everywhere that I would know was a great spot to watch the game was packed. There was nowhere to sit. So end up going to this freaking Irish pub of all places with nothing but Celtics fans all over the place. Here I am, and a friend of mine. We're in there, and we're the only two with Kobe jerseys on. I think this was the exact jersey I wore, and hey, I'm rooting for Kobe, and it was so sweet watching Kobe get that championship. Against the Celtics, and it was crazy. But yeah, man, I worked a job, man, where I wasn't making very much money for a few years, but one of the things I made a point to do, if nothing else, if no other game I would go to, I made a point. When Kobe Bryant was in town to play the Rockets, I made a point to get a ticket to see Kobe Bryant. Part of the reason was I was actually very fortunate to have actually seen Michael Jordan play one time, but it was Michael Jordan when he was not in his prime. It was Michael Jordan when he was with the Wizards. And, he wasn't the Mike in his prime. He wasn't championship Mike. It was, but I still got to see him play, right? So it's still a monumental moment. But that was just a sheer reminder that if I can do it, I need to, be in the building to witness greatness, because those are some of those things you just can't, you can't put a price tag on moments and witnessing history and witnessing greatness. And now I do the same thing with LeBron James. Like when LeBron's in town, I try to get a ticket to see LeBron. Because again, like we're going to look back. These are once in a lifetime athletes. These are icons. Speaking of LeBron James, this was the eerie thing about the whole Kobe Bryant incident. The night before, LeBron James had passed Kobe Bryant on the all-time scoring list. And so Kobe was in the news about that. And not even 24 hours later, you're hearing of this. Heavy is the word. And to me, that's what made that moment even more unbelievable. Was like, it was like it's just it's surreal. I was actually happy that the Lakers were actually able to win that, the championship in the bubble. I think it was a storybook ending or as much of a storybook ending as you could have for that franchise that had been through so much, and the season that was so crazy, being paused for 160 some days and whatnot. And it felt like good closure for the bubble. I'll tell you what, there'll never be another Kobe Bryant. I actually did a piece on Kobe, and it's actually on my website. And one of the things that I've just been studying just how Kobe thinks and everything. And one of the things that I admired that I took from Kobe that I just has really stuck with me, besides just the Mamba mentality, besides having the work ethic, is that Kobe also has this thing he calls Goat Mountain. And Goat Mountain is essentially these legends that he looks up to. So it's great. And as much of a legend as Kobe is, Kobe still had these people that he looked up to. I believe Hakeem was on his GOAT mountain, Moses Malone, just a bunch of great players were on his GOAT mountain. And he went back and just kind of looked at things they did to be successful and reached out to those people. Hey, what did you do here? Hey, I'm stuck. This is, and I think about us as individuals. Like, we all need to have a GOAT mountain. We all need to have these GOATs, that people that have done what we're trying to do, or very close to what we're trying to do, or just people with wisdom that we can just go to and bounce ideas off of, get wisdom from, study the film if you can, right? Like, just go and see what they did and what they did to be successful, to attain the things that they've attained in life, and just be, and it's just to have that as something to look up to, because we, at the end of the day, like, no matter how good you are, if Kobe Bryant has a GOAT mountain, how much more do we need to have a GOAT mountain? Right. And as I was reading that, and as I was working on my piece, I started thinking about who's in my GOAT mountain, right? And when I look at my GOAT mountain, I think I have a couple of GOAT mountains. I have one with people that I probably can't reach. So my GOAT mountain would consist of actually Kobe Bryant, Jay-Z, Will Smith, right? Just these highly successful African-American gentlemen. Barack Obama's probably on my GOAT mountain, right? And these are people that I can study the film on those. I can look at different things that they've done. I can read up on them, and see things that they did and how they moved and whatnot. But I also need those mentors that I can reach out to, that I can pick up the phone, that I can call and actually talk to, and actually get knowledge from, get guidance from. So I have my own little GOAT mountain there too. And, I think, those are the takeaways I really want everybody to get from this podcast. It's to work ethic, get your Mamba mentality up and get your work ethic. Don't let anybody outwork you at your craft. Doesn't mean that you're going to be the only one that's working hard. Doesn't mean that you're going to be the absolute best. But if that work ethic is there, it's going to make you real tough to beat, because so many people lack the work ethic. And just doing whatever it takes to win. Life is short. Life can end in an instance. So I think you got to, get the mentality that you got to win as much as you can in life, because you never know when that moment's going to be your last, right? And then have that GOAT mountain, man, to have those people that you can reach out to. Also just have these maybe people that you can't necessarily reach out to, but you can really see how they moved. And I think we all have, people that we look up to and whatnot. So, those, just because you can't actually talk to them doesn't disqualify them from being in your GOAT mountain. It just means you need to leverage it a little differently how you do that. But also just find your own, if let's say you're in real estate, you need to find you somebody that's a GOAT in real estate and can show you the ropes and give you guidance, not necessarily just give you the whole game, because they probably put a lot of work in the game and had to do a lot on their own. But if they're willing to share at least a little knowledge with you, it's a good thing. But anyway, I just wanted to get on here and really just share some thoughts about Kobe. It's hard to believe it's been a year. It's hard to believe that 2020 actually got worse after this tragedy. But be inspired by his life. I think If there's one thing that Kobe would want is for us to honor his legacy by, unlocking that Mamba mentality that we all have on the inside. And if you don't have a Mamba mentality on the inside, go study some goats. Go read Kobe's book, and dig deep, because I promise you can find it if you dig deep enough. But that's all for this special podcast. As always, you can find this podcast and every other podcast on my website. That's jarvisssam.com. Again, that's jarvisssam.com. You can also find me on Instagram at the Jarvis Sam Show, or Jarvis Sam _ for my personal Instagram. You can connect with me on both of them. We'll be back with another episode next week. So thanks for joining. I hope you're inspired by this, and hope you took away something. And those Kobe fans like me, it's a tough day, but again, we just got to look at Kobe's legacy and continue to be inspired and continue to unlock that inner Mamba. Y'all take it easy.